Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for another Ben 10 action figure review. Today's video we've got three figurines. I'll be talking about Ultimate Alien Ben, Water Hazard, and Amphibian. So these aliens kickstart the Ultimate Aliens. They were the first ones that Ben gained in that series. Water Hazard technically was the first one. So these next few videos I'll be doing are consist of the Ultimate Aliens. So let's get started here with Ben. So this figurine probably looks pretty familiar. It's because it's like the exact same figurine as the Alien Force Ben that I reviewed, with the one major difference that we can probably all guess. He's got the Ultimatrix instead of the Omnitrix. Otherwise, this is like the exact same figure as the Alien Force Ben. They used the same sculpt and everything. They just changed that watch on his wrist. I'm still gonna go over him and review him like a normal figurine, but in case you were thinking, hey, you already you already reviewed that guy, this is technically a different figurine. I actually just got him since I've been doing these reviews. In my very first review video, or not, maybe not review video, but the very first video where I talked about my display and my collection a bit and kind of gave you a tour of my display, I actually didn't have this figurine at that point. So if you watch that video, he isn't in that display. But I kind of, for a while, I kind of put off buying him because it was essentially the same figurine as the Alien Force Ben. But I finally just went ahead and bought him because I figured, you know, it is a different era of Ben 10, so he kind of deserved to be up there in the display. I wanted some sort of Ben with the Ultimatrix to be represented up there, so I went ahead and bought him, and I've got him in my display now. I might do another view of my display at some point at the end of these reviews, but I put him up there. Starting before Water Hazard, in between Nanomech and Water Hazard, right after the Alien Force Aliens end, and at the beginning of the Ultimate Aliens. That's kind of where I put him up in my display. But let's go ahead and get started on the articulation for this guy. So he has the exact same articulation as the Alien Force Ben that I already reviewed. But I'll go ahead and go over it. It's a 360 head turn. He can turn his head all the way around. And the 360 arm turn, and he does have the elbow joint. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if that Alien Force Ben had that elbow joint or not. I'm like 99% sure that he did, but I'm not totally positive. So this one does have the elbow joint, nothing in the wrist, and then he does have the hip movement. So his legs go up about that far, maybe a little less than 90 degrees, and they go back about just as equally as far. So this is one flexible Ben. He can move. He's got some pretty decent range on the leg movement. There's nothing else in the legs though. It's just one solid piece. There's no knee movement, no ankle movement. So that's articulation for him. Like I said, it's probably seemed pretty familiar as I've kind of gone over it before. Paint and detailing on him, just as good as the last Ben figurine I did, the Alien Force figurine. I mean, they literally just used the exact same paint and sculpt and everything for this figurine, so it obviously is going to be just as good. The only sculpt they really changed was his sleeve, because you can see this sleeve is raised a bit higher than this sleeve, so they actually did change this, like this forearm area here. They actually did change that sculpt, so this sleeve's pushed up higher to show the Ultimatrix, because the Ultimatrix, you know, it kind of goes up farther on his arm than the typical watch or the typical Omnitrix. So the sleeve's pushed up a bit more to show that, and the Ultimatrix itself looks pretty good. They've got some minor, you know, line detailing on there, and a lot of the fancy design of the Ultimatrix is hidden under there by his sleeve. which they probably intentionally did so they didn't have to completely sculpt the whole Ultimatrix. It was just easier to hide it under a sleeve. But for what is showing, it looks good. You can see a little tiny Omnitrix symbol there. I kind of wish they would have pushed up his sleeve a little higher just so we could see that whole Ultimatrix and the whole design on it. But at the same time, it's not like Ben ever really wears his sleeve up that high in the show, so I mean, this is pretty accurate the way they have it. But otherwise, yeah, everything's pretty much the same. I mean, the face sculpt is still really good. I mean, I had, positive notes on the Alien Force Ben, and I stick to that with this. I mean, his face looks really good. The paint details on the eyes are great. Got the, eyelashes and the little circles in his eyes, and everything looks really good. Hair looks great. Got his bushiness there and his part. It's all sculpted very well. Paint looks pretty good. I don't really see anything that's, not painted or that's painted out of line or anything like that. Got some sculpting on the jeans. So yeah, I mean, overall, another solid Ben figurine. It's kind of one of those that you could do without if you were building your own Ben 10 collection. I mean, I went without it for a while. Just kind of depends on how much of a completionist you are when it comes to collecting. I decided I really did want that Ultimatrix represented in my display, as I mentioned before. So I did buy this guy, but you just be aware you're essentially buying the same figurine as the Alien Force Ben if you do get this one. But good figurine overall. So let's get him up here next to Water Hazard. So I think that scaling's actually pretty good. Ben is just slightly shorter than Water Hazard. I think that looks pretty good. Alright, so as I said, Water Hazard is the first of Ben's aliens that he gets in Ultimate Alien, or the first that he transforms into. And I think they did an awesome job with this figurine. Before I get into articulation and stuff, I think this is such a good figurine. So I'm looking forward to reviewing this one. Head sculpt. There's no articulation there. I mean, for obvious reasons. This huge helmet, his head's in there. You couldn't even really get to the head if you wanted to. So there's obviously no articulation there. Nothing's moving. It's just one solid piece. Even the head on the inside, there's no articulation. You can't push it or move it at all. But otherwise, pretty typical articulation here. It's got the shoulder swivel that goes all the way around. Elbow joint moves up and down. Doesn't move back a whole lot, but it does go forward. And then nothing in the wrists. And then he's got the leg movement. Goes just back a little tiny bit. Nowhere near as much as Ben did. Forward goes back or goes forward a bit. Again, not a whole lot. The knee joint, he does have that. So that goes up and down, and then nothing in the ankle. So that's it for articulation. Pretty standard stuff here, just minus the head articulation. But I can't even fault them for that. I mean, I don't know how you would have given him head articulation with this huge dome of a helmet. But moving on to the sculpts and paint and detailing, that's what really impresses me with this guy. I just think that they did such a great job on his sculpt. You can see his head in there. I mean, even though this is hidden within his helmet, they didn't get lazy on the head sculpt or anything. You can really see they did a pretty good job with that. It's fully painted and done really well. And The helmet itself looks really good. All this is like ridged and sculpted. And he's got his, black spot patterns on his shoulders, and they're actually not just painted on. Like, you can feel a slight raise there. They're actually like textured on there. And then his like gauntlets, or this forearm part right here, looks really good. That's just some nice sculpting. He's got his spikes there. His fingers are just all like sculpted really nicely. Got all the lines in there for each of his like his knuckles. The legs too. I mean, you got the spikes there, and his feet. I just think that this is a pretty impressive job on the body here. All the paint looks great too. Everything is like in line, and all these spots are actually painted. So yeah, I think this is actually a really good figurine. I mean, Water Hazard, he's not one of my top favorite aliens. He's really cool, but just as for the figurine itself, it looks really good. I like it a lot. And then moving on to the next guy, we've got Amphibian. So let me get him on up here. There's those two next to each other, and again, I think that's actually pretty accurate. About the same height, so that looks pretty good. Amphibian. So his head does turn slightly. You're not going to get it to go all the way around, but it can actually turn. And I'm not sure if they actually did not articulate it to go all the way around, or if it just kind of gets blocked by his own body. This lower part kind of gets blocked by his shoulder when you're trying to turn it. It almost feels like it should be able to go all the way around, but pushing it might damage your figurine, so I don't like doing that. But you do get, that head turn. If you don't feel like pushing it too far, you do get some head turn there. Now the arm articulation is super limited. Again, kind of in a way that you can't really fault them, because it's just the way his body is designed. All these like layers he has to his body don't really allow for that much movement in the arm articulation, at least for an action figure. It's kind of just how it is. But you can see that the two arms, you can see up in here, you can see these two arms are actually connected at one joint. So they both move. They don't have individual articulation, it's just all in the one joint. So if you want to move one, you have to move the other. And then as you can see, they go about that far back and forth. It's the same on this side. They're both connected to the one joint. So yeah, I mean, he does have some arm movement, and his arms actually go up. So I should mention that. A lot of these figurines, you can only move the arms back and forth, but his arms actually move up. So they go up and down, on both sides. So I mean, that kind of makes for a nice like flying pose, if you want them to kind of be floating or flying. Moving the arms up and out kind of makes for some good posing. So even though he's lacking on the up and down movement, they kind of gave him some extra articulation there with being able to move in a way that these arms usually can't. So it kind of makes up for not having that full 360 turn. The legs though are typical. Can go back about that far, and they can go forward. And then he does have the knee joint. So the lower half of the body is pretty normal. It's just with this, like the way his body is designed, it doesn't allow for much movement in the arms. So that's it for the articulation on Amphibian. As for the body detailing and painting and all that, again, just really impressive. He doesn't have much going on for him color wise, so paint, it's just, you know, mostly blue and white, but like the sculpt is really good because all of these white lines in this design on his body is actually raised a bit and textured. It's not just painted on, so they went that extra step to make it a bit more realistic. I think they did a really good job with the like layers and overlapping that he has on his body. I think it looks really good. And all the spots are painted in, and you know, within the lines. They stayed in the lines. Sometimes they don't manage with these figurines, but everything on this guy looks really good. He's got the fins on his legs sculpted, same on his arms, and the like insides of his arms, or the palms of his hands, or whatever you want to call them, they're actually they indent in there, so it's not just like one solid piece. They actually have a dip in them, like a suction cup or something like that. He's got the line sculpting there. His eyes are raised. So for, you know, kind of a simple looking alien, he's just a giant jellyfish. I really like this figure, and I think they did a good job here. So let me get everybody back up. That's the conclusion of this video. So a really solid start, I think, with these Ultimate Alien figurines. I think they did a really good job here. Something I mentioned at the end of my last video and some of the pictures I added, the Ultimate Alien wave of figurines came with some different accessories. So while the Alien Force figurines came with little hologram like statues that you could attach to the Omnitrix, these came with like little pop-up holograms. They were like a little disc that would pop up the hologram of the alien when attached to the Ultimatrix. So I did kind of mention that in my last video, if you looked at the pictures I added, because some of the Alien Force aliens like Lodestar and Wrath were actually released with the Ultimate Alien wave of figurines. So even though they debuted in a show in Alien Force, they didn't get figurines until Ultimate Alien figurines came out, and they were just kind of thrown into that wave. So some of your Alien Force figurines are going to come with the accessories that the Ultimate Alien figurines actually come with. And again, at the end of this video, I'll include pictures and kind of point all that stuff out again. But yeah, that's it for today's video. My next video, I will be talking about Armadillo, Terraspin, and NRG. So keep an eye out for that. I'll have it up next week. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.